How's everybody doing? Welcome into Tuned Into NoCo. I'm Ashlee, and today we got two great individuals on our show. We have Homeward Alliance Executive Director David Rout and Homeward Alliance Program Director Serena Thomas with us. So first off, thank you both for coming into our studio today and speaking with us. It's great having you. For our listeners who don't know, can you explain what Homeward Alliance is all about?
Yeah, thank you for having us today. Homeward Alliance is a Larimer County-based nonprofit that empowers individuals and families who face homelessness to survive, move forward, and thrive. We operate a range of programs that provide everything from basic needs assistance to long-term support in the form of housing-focused case management, employment support, and everything in between.
That's great. And like you said, you guys offer a wide variety of programs, services from housing, medical treatment, to even bike repair. So do you mind talking a little bit more about these programs?
Sure, yeah. So we generally think of our programs in a few different buckets and relate it back to our mission statement: survive, move forward, and thrive. On the survive end of the spectrum, we have programs such as distribution, bike repair, mobile laundry that are designed to help people just survive and meet their basic needs while they're actually experiencing homelessness. So we distribute supplies that people need to survive on the streets. You mentioned bike repair. We have a program that is comprised entirely of volunteers who repair people's bikes while they're experiencing homelessness. Mobile laundry is another program that's really focused on basic needs. It's exactly what it sounds like. We have a truck with washers and dryers. We go to key locations where we know people who are homeless are likely to be, and we do up to 40 loads of laundry a day. And then we actually also operate the Murphy Center for Hope, which is our region's hub of services for people experiencing or at risk of homelessness. And that's a place where people can go for short and long-term services. So we have basic needs services like shower, laundry, lockers, mail, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Kind of in the move forward part of our organization, we have our resource navigation program, which is based primarily at the Murphy Center, but also spread out to key locations throughout the county. That program is designed to get people sort of into the system that is designed to help people get housed. We do a lot of sort of helping people get IDs, helping people connect to resources, helping people just sort of get engaged in the process that ultimately leads to employment and housing. And then on the Thrive end of the spectrum, we have our longer term programs, which are really more case management programs. We have an employment program where we help people, with their job search, help them with the supplies, tools they might need to start their work. We have housing-focused case management programs where we help people find housing and then, depending on the needs of the individuals we're working with, help them retain housing in the long term. And then beyond the sort of day-to-day programs, we're also the HMIS, which stands for Homeless Management Information System, lead agency for Northern Colorado, Larimer and Weld counties. And basically that means we're the data lead. So we are sort of oversee all of the data systems for agencies that provide services to people who are homeless across Larimer and Weld counties.
Wow. So you guys stay pretty busy, huh? You got a lot going on. I was looking at your website, and last year you guys helped, 400 people escape homelessness, and then you had 1,400 plus people volunteer. That's incredible. That's pretty amazing. Yes,
it was quite a year. I mean, it's been a couple of years of pronounced growth. About 2 years ago, or 2.5 years ago now, before the start of the pandemic, we were a roughly $2 million a year agency, 20 employees, and now we're a $4 million a year agency with about 50 employees. And so a lot of credit goes to that expansion and the new employees who've allowed us to expand in a lot of different areas, as well as you mentioned, the 1,400 plus volunteers who support us on an annual basis.
Yeah, and you guys mainly serve northern Colorado, or is it just Fort Collins or Loveland?
So our service territory is primarily Larimer County. The main extension that we have into Weld County is the data lead that I mentioned. So we're overseeing data systems for agencies that provide direct services in Weld County, but we don't actually provide direct services in Weld County.
Okay, gotcha. Well, that's great. Now let's talk about the events you guys have coming up. So you have one coming up in October, and then you have one coming up next month, August 20th. Serena, do you mind talking about those events?
Sure. One of our departments is specifically focused on family services, and we hold quarterly family resource fairs where we invite our families to attend, and we have lots of resources at one location, including clothing, hygiene items, food supplies, and a lot of other agencies that we partner with available to provide services on the spot. And our next Family Resource Fair is on Saturday, August 20th at Life Spring Covenant Church in Loveland. And we expect probably 100 families, maybe 300, 400 individuals, and we need about 40 volunteers for these events.
Okay.
And we would love to invite the community to contact us to sign up to volunteer for that event.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have to register if you want to attend this event?
As a volunteer, not as a family.
Not as a family.
No,
Okay.
it's just show up. We're advertising heavily, and families in need just show up. As a volunteer, yes, we'd say contact us so that we can assign you whatever role is most interesting to you.
That's awesome. And you mentioned to contact you to volunteer.
Yep.
Now, should they reach out to your website? Where should
They
go?
can do a number of things, or they can, probably the easiest is info@homewadalliance.com or .org.
.org. Great. And they can just email you guys and
Yep.
get all that info. Perfect. Along with this one, let's also talk about Mission to Hope Walk. That's coming up on October 8th. What's happening then?
Yeah, so Mission to Hope Walk was an event that started prior to Homeward Alliance taking over the operations at the Murphy Center, but that we have sort of resurrected a few years ago, I should say. Basically, it is a walk that symbolizes the walk that people who are homeless take every day from the shelter, from either shelter in Fort Collins, the Fort Collins Rescue Mission or Catholic Charities, to the Murphy Center, which is our day center, resource center for the daytime hours. And so, in a nutshell, we invite community members to join us in the morning. The walk begins at the Fort Collins Rescue Mission, which is in downtown Fort Collins, and ends at the Murphy Center for Hope. Typically, we hope for around 200 participants, although we'll see. The last time we did this, we did it in December. It was freezing cold, and we still had about 200 participants. So we're hoping that doing it in October will lead to a better turnout. But we do a walk that's highly visible in the community. We walk along College Avenue for part of it, so people can really see us and have their questions answered about why are we walking.
Yeah.
And we end the event at the Murphy Center, where we host an open house. And at that open house, people who participate in the walk can sort of walk through the Murphy Center, see the various services that are provided, interact with some or all of the 20 roughly agencies that provide services on site at the Murphy Center, including Homeward Alliance. And then we have a meal for people experiencing homelessness at the end of the event. So it is a combination of a fundraising event and an awareness-building event, but primarily it's an awareness-building event.
And you guys, you work a lot with the homeless population. Do you guys partner with Fort Collins Rescue Mission at all?
Yes, Fort Collins Rescue Mission and Catholic Charities actually are heavily involved in these events. In the past, we've started the event at Catholic Charities, and Catholic Charities staff have said some words at the start. I imagine Fort Collins Rescue Mission staff will do something similar this year. But we invite both agencies to participate as much as they want to, and we think of it as an awareness-building event for the whole community, including those two shelters. So while we do the logistics and planning for the event, it's really meant for everybody.
That's great. Now, you guys finished what you call, it was the 2022 Project Homeless Connect event. How did that go?
It was absolutely amazing. We had not been able to hold that event. It had been an annual event that obviously was impacted by the pandemic, and we were able to hold it in April of this year. And we had 413 individuals attend.
Wow.
And again, it was sort of like the family resource fairs we were talking about, but it had the additional element of serving single adults, not just families. And we had so many community partners offering health services, benefits, and food and community. Yeah. And it was a huge success.
So what do you guys think is the biggest problem people face as a homeless individual in Larimer County? What do you guys come across the most?
Well, I think ultimately homelessness is a housing problem first and foremost. There are many reasons why people become homeless, and often those reasons are intersecting. But in general, there is a lack of affordable housing. There's a lack of housing with supportive services attached for people who might have disabilities and need ongoing support. That's not to say that housing is the only issue that we face, but I think it is the sort of encapsulation of why people become homeless.
For sure.
I would also highlight the lack of health-related services specific to people experiencing homelessness and people who escape homelessness. We see people every day at the Murphy Center who have chronic health conditions, who have really acute medical conditions in some cases that require immediate medical intervention. And the resources just don't exist in the community specific to the homeless population for us to actually address those needs. So one of our biggest focus areas, and this really was highlighted by the pandemic, is to try to develop a health clinic that is specific to people experiencing homelessness.
Okay.
There are lots of communities across the state and across the country that have such clinics. Denver is a great example. The Stout Street Clinic in Denver is a service that we've looked at really closely. It's sort of a resource day center combined with a really robust medical facility. And our hope is that in the relative near future, we can have something comparable at the Murphy Center, or if not at the Murphy Center, at another location where people who are homeless go frequently.
Definitely. Well, thank you for that. Now, kind of circling back a little bit. So the next Family Resource Fair is Saturday, August 20th, 9 to 11:30 a.m. You said it's at the Life Spring Covenant Church in Loveland. You need 40 volunteers. So if you are listening and you'd like to volunteer, definitely reach out. You can get more information at homewardaLliance.org, or you can email them at info@homewardaLliance.org as well. Before we move on from this event, is there anything you'd like our listeners to know, families, people who are having a hard time, why this event is important to attend?
I think that if you're listening and you're a family that's considering coming to this event, please come to this event. I think it is both a great place to actually get services and things that you might need on that specific day, but it's also an opportunity to get connected to longer term services that can help you escape homelessness if that's the situation you're in, help you retain housing if you're in a precarious situation relative to your housing, help you get connected to employment-related resources. So I think I would just emphasize that it's not just about the services that are available on that day, although the services are robust and useful, and if that's all you need, that's all you need. It is about connecting people to longer-term services that can help forever.
And we do encourage families from both Fort Collins and Loveland to attend.
Okay.
We alternate between the two cities so that we
Great.
can serve more families.
Perfect. And have you guys done this fair in the past?
Yes, we actually started these events in 2009.
Really?
We originally did them on a monthly basis. We've switched to a quarterly basis after a year or two, just based on attendance and trying to put more planning into each event so that there's different elements and they're more robust. But we've been doing quarterly events for about a decade now with pretty profound success at various locations. We've served as many as 220 families, I believe, at a single event.
Wow.
And they've just consistently been one of the best received and most attended services that we offer.
For sure. When it comes to homelessness in Colorado, has there been an uptick since COVID, or has it gone down? Do you know?
Yeah, overall, in the state of Colorado, we've seen an uptick in homelessness since the start of the pandemic. But if we look at numbers specific just to Fort Collins, we've actually seen a slight decrease. We base these estimates on an annual census called the point-in-time count of people experiencing homelessness. Communities across the country are actually required to do this by the federal government. And so on a single night in January, we do just what it sounds like. We do a census of people who are homeless and try to get a sense of how many people there are. And from 2019 to 2022, the number in Fort Collins in our annual point-in-time count went down by about 1%. And while that obviously seems like a low number, I think what it really suggests is that we have the ability as a system in the city of Fort Collins to keep up with the sort of rate of entries into homelessness. What we need is to be able to get that existing group of people who are experiencing homelessness into housing. If we could just sort of flash a magic wand right now and get everyone who's homeless into housing, I feel very confident that we could maintain a system where we could quickly get people into housing who fall into homelessness and make sure that they don't slip back into homelessness.
Now, if someone listening, say their schedule's crazy, they don't have time to volunteer at these events, but they would like to donate, where can they go?
We're very much in need of basic survival gear for people who come to the Murphy Center. So we will happily take tents, sleeping bags, heavy jackets, camping gear, things like that. We also take clothing for youth. That's what we distribute at our family resource fairs. In particular, clothing for teen boys is hard to come by, so we would gladly accept donations of teen clothing or clothing for children in general. The items we serve out of our food pantry at the Murphy Center, coffee, snack bars, nuts, things like that, to-go type food.
Okay.
And we will always take financial donations.
And for these donations, do they donate at the Murphy Center?
Yes.
The physical donations, they'll just bring them there. What is that address?
The Murphy Center is located at 242 Conifer Street, the north end of Fort Collins, at the intersection of Conifer and Blue Spruce. It's just a little bit east of the Jack's store that's at Conifer and College. And for financial donations, the easiest way is to visit our website at homewardalliance.org.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. All right, so kind of switching gears here. I just kind of want to get to know you guys. So how did you get involved in Homeward Alliance? What's your background? What's your story?
So my story is kind of a strange one. I actually had a 2-decade career as an engineer.
No way.
And yeah, that was my education. That was my training.
Smarty pants.
And honestly, at some point, I started to feel like that existential crisis of what am I doing in the world? And I quit cold turkey. And Fort Collins is actually a very supportive community when it comes to volunteering. So you hear about it all the time. I started volunteering and at some point decided this is where I want to be. And I've worked in a number of nonprofits. I've only been at Homeward Alliance for a couple of years. I'm one of the newbies through that growth during the pandemic, but absolutely feel like this is my landing spot. And this is a population that I have a heart for and want to be able to serve.
That's amazing. Wow. Well, David, what about you?
I think mine's a little less interesting. I sort of fell into the issue of homelessness. I decided to go back in 2011. I decided to go back for my master's in social work at Colorado State University. And the reason I did that was because social work as a profession is really about the intersection of policy and direct service. And I've always been very interested in policies and how they impact people, particularly marginalized populations. But I've also always had an interest in direct service, and social work school just seemed like a good fit for me. I did an internship with the organization that I now work for while I was in my program, and I just really fell in love is the wrong word, because it's not that would be a little bit of a callous way of putting it, but I just became very interested in the issue of homelessness, and it became more personal for me. I grew up in a relatively affluent environment, and I think that the main thing that I had growing up and that I continue to have because of how I was raised and the opportunities that my parents and my family provided for me was just the opportunity to do whatever I want to do with my life. And that's such a rare gift in this world, in this country, to be able to say, I'm going to do the exact thing that I want to do, and not have to worry about whether it's the most lucrative profession or what the personal gain is going to be. And when I started working with people experiencing homelessness, I just very quickly realized that the opportunities that I've had growing up and that I continue to have as an adult are not shared by the vast majority of people, I think, in our world, and particularly among people experiencing homelessness. And so for me, it's really about just helping to create an environment where people have the opportunity to live their lives in the way they want to live them.
Thank you so much for that. Again, if you're listening and you would like to know more about Homeward Alliance on how to volunteer or donate, you can check out their website at homewardalliance.org. Both of you, is there anything else you'd like our listeners to know?
I'd say that the problem of homelessness is actually very misunderstood. The reasons people enter into homelessness and what it takes to escape that. It's sort of invisible. People don't know it's in their communities, and when it shows up and it's visible, it's shocking and not understood.
I'd just like to say that this is a community issue in general, homelessness, that can't be solved, addressed by a single nonprofit or even a group of nonprofits, or it really requires a broad collaboration between nonprofit providers, between government agencies, the 1,400 plus volunteers who volunteer for us on an annual basis, and the thousands of others who volunteer with like-minded organizations across the community. If we really want to make a dent in this issue, I believe that we can. I believe that time and again we've proven in this country that when we want to solve a problem, we can solve it. And I think there's a general feeling of helplessness sometimes when it comes to the issue of homelessness, that it's just too big, that we just can't solve it. But we can look back to plenty of issues like that in our nation, in our state, in our community's history that we felt were intractable, that turned out not to be. And I hope that when we look back on the issue of homelessness 20 years ago, we're not talking about how we can solve it. We're talking about how we did solve it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Seriously, both of you, Larimer County is lucky to have you guys. I learned so much from this interview, so I really appreciate you guys coming and speaking with me. Again, if you're listening and you'd like more information on how to get help or how to get involved in Homeward Alliance, you can head to their website at homewardalliance.org.